Fantastic. Thank you guys for that. I'm here with Patrick O'Donnell, our next candidate for UC President.
And your next UC President, hopefully.
Patrick, just to kick us off then, very generally, why should people support you?
So my key 3 pledges are reducing the cost of living for students, communicating with students about things like strike action and really involving people on the ground. I want to listen to students' views and I want students to be involved in everything that USU does. Obviously, we all know about the lack of engagement at the moment and all the discontent towards USU. So I've got a big plan to sort of reform that and engage people. And then I've also got my other sort of broader outlook. I want to work with different partners across York. So that's things like the council, the NHS and First Buses, to sort of basically have more joined up thinking to obviously achieve more with different partners across York.
Okay, wonderful. So you mentioned their cost of living, and you say in your manifesto that you want to end the circuit laundry contracts and bring maintenance in-house to the university.
Yeah.
News reported yesterday that these contracts are worth £100,000 a year. So how are you going to make the university cave in?
Yeah, that's right. So if we got rid of those contracts tomorrow and ended the contract tomorrow, that would cost in the region of about £500,000. That's a huge waste of UC's money. I don't think we should be using resources for that. However, these contracts are renewed every 7 years. And funnily enough, next academic year will be that year when those contracts come up for renewal again. So then, obviously, we've got the chance then to either decide, do we want to continue with those contracts? Do you want to use a new provider? Or would we rather do it in-house, save on maintenance, save on general costs, and do it in-house with the university? And obviously, Warwick University did this a couple of years ago, I think. Other unis have done it. And unis have done it too. It's not a huge cost thing. Of course, there's a cost to buy new washing machines. Gonna get really niche here. Washing machines, things like that. But that money will obviously come back in the long term because all the money from students will be going back into university funds, and hopefully in the long term it can be a non-for-profit thing, so we can actually reduce costs.
Do you know vaguely how long a term that is?
Term? What do you mean?
How long term it will be before the money's come back in?
I haven't done the maths, but as I said, it's going to be a long-term investment. So, and we've got the chance to reduce costs as well. Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. And staying on the subject of contracts, you also mentioned that you want to develop a better York Parties contract. Obviously, York Parties has been a hot topic recently. What's wrong with the current one?
Yeah. Well, when I say that, I mean, we can't. There's debates being had at the moment about scrapping York Parties and completely getting rid of them. I don't think we should do that because they bring us a lot of money. I'm not sure if I can say the amount of money they give us, but I can. It's about £800,000, I understand. So it's a hell of a lot of money. That goes, sports clubs and things like that. So we really need that funding. In terms of reforming, I really want to work with the activities officer and reform student nights and get more student nights, more students involved in student nights. Students go to student nights. Why aren't we involved in running them a bit more? That will involve getting people around a table, different interests. And as I said earlier, in terms of working with the council, things like licensing is obviously a big issue at the moment. We've got so many clubs like Salvo's is probably going to be turned into a hotel. We know Fibbers is being turned into a hotel or something like that. So it's a big thing about, what venues are most suitable. And USU alone can't answer that question because that's way above USU's pay grade. But, when we come together with different partners across York, we can really, put all our heads together and hopefully, not overnight, but hopefully come together and get some good solutions.
Interesting. You talk about partners across York, and earlier you talked about working with the NHS to lower Unity Health waiting times. Do you think Unity Health is still going to be a priority for them if you talk to the NHS when it was taken off the special measures by the Care Quality Commission over a year ago now?
It was taken off special measures, but it's still a problem. I phone up for a GP appointment a couple of weeks ago, and they told me it was about a 3-week wait. And I phoned up at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Many listeners will probably know how frustrating that is. I phoned up at about 6:01, and I was about 50th in the queue or something ridiculous like that. And now that's really not accessible to people. Of course, people will say, UC will fix that overnight. We can't do that. But what we will do, and what I will do, is sit down with Unity Health as an organisation, sit down and ask them, how can we streamline the accessibility of appointments? Because, once you get an appointment, fantastic, you're there. But, the real hurdle actually is getting an appointment. and we need to sit down and engage with those people to get stuff like that done. And if, Unity Health turns around and says, oh, well, we can't offer more appointments and we can't change our system, which I hope they will after pressuring them. If they don't say that, then we need to look at alternatives and obviously suggest alternatives to students, as what's happened in the past where students were told to go elsewhere rather than Unity Health.
Would you suggest that to students now?
It's up to individual students, isn't it? Because, on a national level, again, this is way above UC's pay grade in terms of you can only be registered at one GP. So I know back at home in London, I'm a holiday visitor or something ridiculous. I remember there was a petition a few months ago on that, and then the government kind of slapped it down and said, oh, we believe in choice or something like that. So they didn't actually address the issue of students being able to register in, 2 places at once. That's probably something to work with the NUS about, on a national level to campaign for that. But, here at University of York, I need to look at more details, but, from what I've experienced, it's rubbish.
Interesting. You've said you want to be the representative of students to the uni and not the other way around.
Yeah.
The 3 student union presidents who have been elected while you've been at uni, Alex Urquhart, James Durkin and Samara Jones, what have they done wrong?
So it's not necessarily a personal thing. I think it's the general idea of not individuals in UC, but the general sort of way it operates. I've been speaking to loads of people, including college chairs today, and they were saying to me that, people put a hell of a lot in effort, whether it's things like URY, whether it's college committees, whether it's societies, things like that. And they don't feel that they're listened to. Now, that's not the fault of one person. That's the fault of sort of the inherent organisational structure. So, if it's something like funding for societies and they get told, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that. I want to reverse that and say, well, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Why don't we bring people together? Not just the people who are responsible for directly liaising with societies, for example, but actually bring in, finance people, and why don't we bring in the head of UC and other individuals like that, so we can really, get around the table and actually have a discussion. Because I think the thing at the moment is people just get fed up. They don't know the sort of proper channels to go down if they have a concern, or the emails get bounced around. So if we actually sit down, even as simple as sitting down and having a conversation is at least one step into having that dialogue so we can move forwards.
So you soon need structural change?
Well, it needs several things. That's one element of it, isn't it? So it's like literally, as I've just said, sitting around a table and being able to talk. It needs better signposting and training available for people, as I said earlier, with like activity in societies and activities and college committees and things like that. Obviously, we all know about the letter from college chairs, which came out a couple of days ago. And I've been talking to some of them, and they were obviously raising things like finance, but then also a general idea of a sort of lack of engagement and lack of engagement with their concerns. And that, of course, that's not the fault of one person. That's a general thing where emails are bounced around and there's not a clear, streamlined process. And hopefully I want to be part of that solution to streamline the process of whether it's finance or something else.
So one of the biggest thing for all students, is rent, the cost of living. And I spoke to one of the working class candidates earlier today to talk about how to lower rents. And of course, a lot of rent contracts that the university holds are also held jointly with building contractors that enforce minimum rent increases. With that in mind, how can USU help to reduce rent costs?
Yeah, so just a bit of context on that. Some people will be aware that, the new colleges on Hesse East, they're built into contracts and they were formerly private. And I understand that the university gradually and has bought those colleges out of private contracts and now manages them themselves in terms of where the profits go and things like that, which is great. As I said, look, Effie has been, as a current community and wellbeing officer, been working to reduce rents through her rent rank campaign. That's going really well. Obviously, we've seen the reduction in rents, but obviously we know the new colleges on Hesse East, which are yet to come. There's only a very small proportion, which I think the lowest is the economical thing.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Standard, but the premium where you get a TV in your kitchen and it's all lovely colours and your walls painted a nice colour. I was in Derwent C Block, which with asbestos, and I had a hole in my wall, so it wasn't very glamorous, but it was loads of fun. Anyway, back to this. So rents, it won't happen overnight, but it's about sitting down with the university, engaging with them, saying, look, we've got students, all students, want to save money, but we have got students who are genuinely on lower incomes, who need further support, and we need to go further to supporting these students and increasing accessibility.
Do you think you'd be able to work on changing current enforced contracts?
Well, as I've said, as I've highlighted with the circuit laundry contracts, we're bound. We'd have to pay, as I said, I was given a figure of around about £500,000 to get out of that contract, which would be, as I said, a huge waste of UC's money. We need to be effective in this, and obviously that won't happen overnight in terms of circuit laundry contracts. And similarly with these contracts, obviously I know they're time limited, I think, so they eventually do expire, and there's a way to sort of rejiggle around finances in terms of getting out of those and bringing as we said, things back into direct control of the university. So that's one thing to look at. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we go to our final